Keeping the Flow podcast, hosted by Jason and Chad.
All right, here we are again, another episode of Keeping the Flow. I'm one of the hosts, Jason Upton, and with me is Chad Johnson. So this week, we kind of had a scheduling snafu, and one of our guests got confused on what date we were actually going to be recording. So we've rescheduled that one. But in its place, I thought it would be a good time to for maybe me and Chad to talk about some of the topics that are hot in the water industry today. So I kind of went on ChatGPT and I typed in like, what are the top hot topics in the water industry, and they came up with the ones that we're working on guests to come and talk to us about. PFAS, lead and copper is a big one. We've already talked about some of them that are hot topics, which are asset management. So we're kind of hitting those, and one of them had to deal with one of the hot topics is employee retaining and recruiting employees and into this industry, into the water industry, whether it be operations, out in the field work, engineering. So that was a hot topic. And we do have a future guest that's going to be, Jeff's going to be coming on here talking about some internship programs that his group is working on. But in the interim, I thought maybe Chad, we could discuss this topic of the workforce, the next generation, tackling the water workforce.
Okay. Well, I
So
mean, I think we could probably wrap it up in about 30 seconds and just say, AI robots, case closed.
right. Well, and that's one of the things that like a suggestion,
Yeah.
and I've heard it when we've been at conferences and such, that has been out there, AI, but I personally feel that you still have to have a body that's
Well,
telling that AI is a great tool. I use it a lot. It's a great tool, but I still think you have to have that human interface to be, you know, to be able to challenge AI or to work AI. So, um, one of the things when I got into the industry 30 years ago, it was a big topic. This same topic was big back then. You're talking 30 years ago. Oh, the silver tsunami and moving forward, there was going to be all these retirements, and we're still hearing that today. In fact, one of the statistics, talks about more than 30% of the workforce eligible to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's the same slogan that we've been hearing for a long time. But um, are we getting to that point? I'm starting to see it in the industry. I'm starting to see it in my workplace.
I am.
I'm starting to see that it's harder and harder to recruit certified operators, let alone recruit folks that want to be a part of this. Uh, you know, Hours are big nowadays. Um, Me time or family time seems to
Work-life
take a
balance.
lot of.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. So
Well, and some of that too is you know, the water licenses are far and few between. So you have guys that can go into a city and say, hey, I'll run your water system for you or sign off on things, and they have 4 or 5 systems, and then that's kind of their job. And so the counselors are like, well, why do we need to hire anybody? We have John to do it, and then John's getting older, and then there's nobody on the bench, like I like to say, there's nobody up and coming. There's you can still get a water license, but you still need the training. You still need the hands-on experience. And I was joking, obviously AI robots are not going to be able to dig up a water main and fix it
right.
when needed, or sign off on chemicals and AI is great, for information or how to do things, but you still need to know what to ask it.
Well, and that was we all know small systems. They don't call it a limited workforce. They just call it cross training. Where the water guy
Yeah.
is the
The
street
street
guy
guy.
is. So
Yeah.
one of the things is budget, and that came up as part of this. Like budget, salary was listed as maybe a potential problem or a cause for this shortage in the workforce. And I Googled that. I actually used Google to find out, 30 years ago when I first got into the industry, what was the average salary. And the starting salary back then was like $20,000, which is
That was
sad to
big
think
money.
about that.
That was good money
And
though.
I was big time. I come right out of high school, got a city job, $20,000. My friends at the time that were going to school, I was actually going to go to school to be a teacher. And at the time, teachers were making less than the starting salary for the city. So
Yep.
$20,000, give or take, and I was big time. Um, and now today, we're struggling. We've got, the average operator probably makes 60,000, $50,000 a year, and it's not enough. So I don't know municipalities how they can afford that. Realistically, how can you afford a big workforce? So that's one of the causes is salary.
Salary and well, more opportunity. So we can I would call it an elephant in the room. There's American Water, Aqua Illinois. Nothing against that, but the municipalities, they can't afford or have the expertise anymore to run their water system. So they either sell out or they hire the people that work for the city to work for them, and they have higher pay rates or whatever. But I mean, ultimately, it comes down to what the taxes are and the water rates in the city in order to pay people. And that's the biggest sticking point ever is how much do you pay for water, and nobody wants to pay more. So it's a big deal, and I would say it's been coming for a while. The industry's getting older for sure, and the up and coming is far and few between. I don't see many young guys in the industry at all.
Right. Well, the other thing is, like we've been talking about, smaller systems can't afford to hire extra staff, but and that's certified personnel. They probably have someone who's certified who's on staff, but to actually hire someone else who is certified, probably not going to be able to hire two certified operators in their city. So, at that point, then do you hire someone and then train them? That's a possibility, a good possibility. But how do you get them in for that lower salary? Do you see it on your side, like in the more the private, the industrial?
Well, so working for a private company is a little, obviously it's different, but even in sales, I mean, there's not a lot of young salespeople coming up, and if they are, I mean, I don't know where they are. They're all in their, and I would say young as 20, 23, 24 years old. Usually they come in this industry in the 30s. And that's a big deal too. I mean, say what you want about salesmen, but it takes somebody to show somebody a different path, or it takes somebody to say, hey, there might be a better way. There's better products out there. I mean, just like we can even look at the industry trade shows. The whole reason why we're there is to get educated and find out about new things. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, and we drink beer and we have a good time too, right? I mean, that's part of it. But the reason why you go there is to get educated and see what is new, and half of that is the technical side of the credits, and then the other side is salespeople showing you what's out there, what's new, trying to improve the process at the very least, because 30 years ago, uh, you were doing things live, water main breaks or fix and repairs. Now there's tools, better tools, better processes, GIS systems. I mean, there's no such thing as GIS 30 years ago. If it exists, it was way too expensive. SCADA systems have far exceeded technology in the last 5 years. Just give you better systems, and uh, you probably don't need to have the same credentials, let's say, to be a water operator that you did 30 years ago, because some of those tools will help with that. But I don't think to get more, people in, you need to lower the standard. I don't think that's a great idea either.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking about when, and I Googled, was career versus job.
Right.
Do you think people? I know when I get out of high school, I wasn't. I was all about the money. I was wanting a nice car, a nice motorcycle, things like that. So I was looking at that money aspect. But in the back of my mind, I think I was still trying to make sure that it was a career or something that moving forward would be able to continue to pay my bills. Believe it or not, I was looking at retirement and thinking about retirement after I just completed high school. I was already, thinking about what I was, affording retirement. Um, and so I Googled job and career, and I think, I mean, what's your opinion? Do you think that more people are looking for jobs nowadays or looking for careers? When you look at a career, being long term,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, you know, a, a job out of high school is, McDonald's, right? Or, bagging groceries, or you're not really looking for a career at that point. You're just kind of figuring out what you want to do. And um, career opportunities doesn't mean you need to stay at a job for 30 years either, or stay in the same spot. I mean, you can stay in the same industry or have the same, expertise. So being a career person is focusing on a certain aspect of the industries. Just you didn't say with Rock, you haven't been with Rock Island for 30 years, right? Uh,
have I no,
no,
but
but I
I
mean
think
you've been in the
I
industry.
think it's
Yeah,
a culmination of small jobs that ultimately you got to have it in your mind that it's going to be a career. So when I first got into it, it was a job, um, but it was also a job that was leading into a career. Because I mean, even though you talk about sacking groceries, I've known several people that have started out sacking groceries and then they've moved to produce or whatever. Next thing you know, you go into the grocery store and they're a manager, running a department or running a whole store or
yeah,
district. So
yeah, right.
everything I think has an opportunity to
It's
turn
been
into a to
yeah,
career. Um, I think a lot of it has to do with the 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 folks that are applying and what they're looking at. Are they looking for a career? And I guess that would be a question. When people get into the industry, are you looking for a career or are you looking for a job? Or is it a job that happens to turn into a career? You
yeah.
know,
Well, that's the old saying, give everything you have 110%, whether you're sweeping the floor or you're, a heart surgeon. You know,
right.
I mean, the more you give, if you go the extra mile, people will recognize that. And then if you want to move up, like you said, if you want to be in a career situation, you'll be the first one to be looked at for promotions or raises or whatever. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing at all times. You can't, if you want to move up in a career or you just want to do a job, that's it. So what is the motivation? And
Yeah.
what is that? Is that afforded to you? So when you work for a McDonald's or a even a utility, I mean, is it afforded to you to be able to move up in the system? And is there benefits? I mean,
And
maybe it's just
it may
one.
not even be moving up in a particular system, but are you gaining anything? What are you gaining personally that, it may not have to be, if you start out in a small system and you work your way up or you work your way to a point where you feel like you're comfortable, you've learned a lot, maybe at that point, then you move on to something else. You're still a part, that job was still a part of your overall career. But I guess where I was going with this is like what I see is I don't see a lot of career folks that are looking for careers. I see a lot of more bouncing. People will get into here and then they don't like it here, so they move to here, and then
Mhm.
um, uh, see a
Or
lot
now
of that.
I'm in streets now. you
Uh, I
know,
don't see I don't see a lot of, and I teach the class, so I see a lot of people that are taking my class to for certification purposes. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish whether they're taking them for their own personal purposes. In other words, they want to get certification for themselves, or they're doing it because their city or their municipality says, "Hey, you need to have this classification to where to be in the to move up or to be in that position. So, we're going to pay for you to take the class, to take the test. But what I see is I don't see everybody then taking the test, so then that tells me, like, is this really, are they really wanting to do this? Or are they just doing it because the city wants to?
Right. Well, I mean, it's requirements too, right? You kind of need to have the people, and then that's how they create a bench, right? I mean, the next guy up, who wants to do it, they kind of either weed those people out, or, they it's a way to gauge, interest level. Yeah, like you said. I mean, do they want to be here, or they just want to? And it's fine. I mean, if you just want to be who you are, and you don't want to, like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be in management, or you don't want to move up in the scale. I mean, there's lots of people like that too, and that's not a bad thing. It's all about
Yeah.
preference.
And then, another thing that popped up was talking about certification, because these positions, a lot of these operational positions require certifications. Every state has their own certification process. Illinois, I think, is a really good certification process. Kind of um, uh, gives you you have to have a good understanding. And I think that's important if you're going to be considered a health professional, which we are, public health. That's what we're providing clean, safe drinking water. And with that comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of knowledge that you have to have,
Hmm.
not how to work the treatment process, but understand, or how to work a particular treatment process at a particular city, but the overall treatment process, the overall understanding of public health, that we're trying to provide clean, safe drinking water.
Hmm.
But you can't lessen the certification process. You can't say, you know what, we're going to make this easier so that we can get more certified operators.
Yeah.
Somehow we got to get more people to want to be certified operators and take
Right.
the test, pass the test, um, without without having any changes. Because I don't know that, given the pace of learning, when you get into it, like to get your class A, it takes a certain amount of time on the job and a certain amount of school to be able to obtain your class A in Illinois. So do you lessen the time or lessen the technical knowledge that's needed for a class A? And I don't think you can do that. I think you have to keep those the same, and hope that people want to be better
What if
themselves in their career.
if someone was focused on getting their Class A license, how long would that take?
If they're Are they in a plant that's already, you know,
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario. I mean, everything fell into place.
well, you're going to put me on the spot here, but
All right.
it's based on hours that, it used to be years. So, a good um 3 to 5 years, you could probably have it achieved,
Okay.
a
So
class A.
yeah, so if you went right out of high school and then go to college, I mean, do you need a college degree to work for a municipality? I mean, is that a requirement?
No, I don't have
Okay.
a college degree.
Right.
No.
So, I mean, you could think of, so where I'm going with this um, is you could essentially get out of high school and work on your degree as getting your Class A license that the city's going to pay
Yeah.
for your education. And, you can, Class A license is like a unicorn right now.
Right. Yeah.
And you can
So
do
I have a
anything you
class.
want. I mean, you can work for any city you want right now with a Class A license,
Yeah.
and go where the
Well,
money is if you
y-
want. Or, I mean, everybody pays differently. Or you can, do what you want to do for whoever you want to do it for. I mean, that's some way to look at it. That's all.
yeah. Well, everybody who works for me or that I hire, they know the importance that I do place on certification. Certification, in my eyes, is that one thing that I have, kind of like a degree at a college. It's that one thing that I have that's mine. I take it with me. The city might help me achieve it. So they give me, on the job training. They give me, in some cases, maybe pay for my classes um, to learn more about it. But it's mine. If I
Yeah.
go to another city, I can hold that up and say, look, I'm a certified operator. Whereas if I didn't have that, then I would just be the normal Joe that has operated in a water treatment plant for 10 years and never did anything as far as certification. The folks with me know that our plant is a Class A plant, and in my eyes, they should all be wanting to achieve their Class A water
Right.
certification
I mean, why not?
because
You're there anyways.
it's a great opportunity because the hands-on has to be based on the plant that you're operating in Illinois too. So being able to be a part of a Class A water treatment plant, then that enables you to get your Class A water license through on the job training. So
Right.
um,
And
definitely,
and you're there anyway. So I mean, you're putting the hours in and not getting certified. It's kind of, I mean, to me, it seems like a big waste of time. You know,
yeah,
or you're not utilizing the time is what you know.
yeah. And it isn't easy. Nobody,
Of
it's
course,
not
nothing.
easy.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, nothing is.
but yeah, so that is one of the things too. Certification. A lot of municipalities will require certification, so people don't want to get into that because they don't want to, have to go get their license to operate. Um, so, the other part of the rabbit hole that I had talked about earlier of going down was, so then I started looking at generationally, um, which is a huge rabbit hole all in itself. The different generations. And I went to, when I was at the conference, the AWWA conference, I went to one of the sessions was talking about it was more dealing with learning aspects of the different generations. Um, and so they were talking about how the different generations learn and have different ways of learning. Well, I kind of took it a different twist and looked and was like, how do we attract the different generations to a particular job? Maybe it's wording, and true enough, that's what it did come back was that the different generations have different ways of learning, different ways of looking at a job, as far as how it's worded. So one of the suggestions to try to get more people is to change it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, I mean, I guess I could for my own municipality, but one of the suggestions was like, instead of water treatment plant operator, water quality technician or something. It makes it sound like it's more powerful, which in my eyes, it is a powerful job, but I don't know if changing the name is going to actually create
Or
anything.
a janitor is custodial engineer or something like
Hey, add
that.
engineer to it. You
Yeah,
got a title and didn't even have to pay for it. Hey.
that's right. That's right.
But
So,
so I went down that and like, that also made me start thinking about the folks that are applying for the jobs and the people that are you're putting into the jobs of what interests them, like so when I looked it up, you got your baby boomers, your generation X, which that's kind of the best generation, I think. I don't know. Maybe that's because I'm part of that generation X. I actually tried to recruit for this recording. I tried to recruit one of my neighbor one of the supervisors or superintendents or managers. Everybody's got these different titles, right? Over at a neighboring city to try to get her to get on here because she's a millennial. So I wanted to get the aspect, the view from a millennial. Then I tried to recruit my son too, because a lot of times, Chad, you've got kids. You can kind of see the generational, those generational quirks, I guess, that we all have.
yep. Well, my kids are much smarter than me, of course. So there's that. They know a lot more than their dad.
Well, Gen Zers are visual learners, socially conscious, and digital. So everything dealing with digital and visual. They like hands-on learning,
Yeah.
which I would say is probably true for my kids. Generation X, we're more independent, resourceful, skeptical, and adaptable.
Right. Yep. Because
And we like,
because we were latchkey kids or had the TV raise us
yeah,
or make our own dinner.
that's
We had
true.
to figure it out, right?
So, then trying to work these different generations into, an operating position, and I guess, my question would be to anybody who's listening is, or what are some things that you think would help in the industry to recruit more people to get in as operators or a lot of times we don't have a lot of problems recruiting people on the distribution side. So on the collections and so out in the field work, those are your good those are going to be your blue collar workers that are, they might have worked for some other aspect of the water industry, whether it be another, company or um, plumber or, digging for a plumber or working in a factory, um, when we have those, we don't usually have any problems recruiting those. It's more of the operations that we have the hardest time recruiting. I know small systems would probably have a hard time recruiting an operator and distribution, field worker, because they're probably one and the same.
Yeah. Well, there's a personality type too, I mean, winter and working on water main isn't fun. So it's kind of like a sense of ownership and pride. When you fix something, when you get something back online, you have some sort of fulfillment or purpose. And that's part of it too. You can't just go to a mindless job and sit in a cubicle. I mean, so whoever does that is not working in the dirt with a water main wrench, or working on a water main break, or digging or repair clamps, or any of that. So new service lines. A guy that sits in a cubicle is not doing that. So it's a personality type. It's hey, how can we work with my hands? I love this. I was on a job site, and it was 20. It's like 20 degrees, and I was working with a contractor, not a city guy, and he had his shirt off. He worked just with his pants on. I'm like, what are you doing right now? He's like, I love this weather. I'm like, what, are you crazy? There's guys like that out there, that's what they love to do. And really, I mean, I don't want to say it's a calling or something like that, but I mean, people find the jobs that they want to do, and
Right.
they'll make a career out of it. But and when you're digital, or when the new generation is coming up and you have never worked with your hands, now we start to talk about upbringing. I mean, there's some of that too.
Yeah.
How do you get your kids to work, on things?
So another question was uh, that I have, and I'd pose this to the folks that would be listening to, it'd be like, is this something that should be regulated? Should municipals be required to have a staffing plan? We have plans for, and I'm not agreeing with this. As well as I do, we do not need any more regulations. However,
Right.
is
Yeah.
it something that needs to be? I mean, we've got a plan for if something happens to your source water. Should this be a part of your risk and resilience staffing? In Illinois, we all had to turn in risk and resiliency plans. Should staffing be part of part of your resilience?
I mean, you need the people, right? You need people to do it. So I'm not saying we need more regulations, but I mean, how would you even, if we're talking about people that are not up and coming and there's a shortage, how do you ensure that you have that plan and you're meeting it, right?
Yeah. What if operations, employs 6 folks, and all of a sudden 2 of them retired. 2 of your top long term, they'd been there, they'd made a career out of it. They retire. What does that do to your operations?
Yeah, I guess you're out of
Means
compliance,
you're
right? Is
Well,
that
you're
what it
not out
means?
of compliance. You're not out of compliance, but now your operations, you're too short. Now you're going to have to bring in 2 trainees, try to work those into your work team there of operations. I guess what I'm getting at is if all of a sudden we're not able to replace employees or replace staff operators, how does that make it a risk for our municipality, because we don't have the proper staff to be able to run the plant?
Um, yeah, I mean, great question. And you can't run everybody into the ground. I mean, even if you get overtime, I always said this too. I mean, just because you work overtime in a municipality, it doesn't mean you can come back to work the next day and work all day again. Like, you need to take that time off. So,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
who's to blame if
right,
if all of a sudden a municipal has 2 people leave and now we are short staffed?
right.
I mean, would that be considered negligence because we didn't have a plan for retirement for our operators.
You kind of need to
Yeah,
overhire sometimes, right? And
right.
then,
So again, the question be like, should this be a regulatory compliance um, issue?
yeah, I mean, it
Should
would,
the EPA come in and say, you know what, we need to have a staffing plan on how you're gonna how you're gonna handle um, when people retire or leave,
yeah,
and how
that's
you're gonna
some,
replace those.
right. So some kind of countermeasure plan and who you have up and coming. And I mean, is there an internship program? Do you have like
Oh yeah.
people to draw from? Say, hey, you intern with us. We're looking for here's a 3-year plan. Are you interested? I don't know how you pay an intern or if that's possible. I don't know.
Well,
I
like I
mean, just
said,
keep
we
people
got
interested.
Jeff. Jeff's going to be on here, I think, in the future, and they've been real successful with their internship program that they run. But again, and it'll be interesting to see how they work their internship program, because there are, we have different internship programs that we've had with the city, um, more so in the engineering department. Um, our engineering department, not so much in operations, because operations gets difficult too, because you got like unions that you have to work around, you have to work with to bring in an intern that's going to be doing a job, make sure that it's not taking the place of a union operator. So there's things like that you have to be cognizant of. But yeah, and again, I'm merely putting it out there as a suggestion to see if we can get some feedback from folks.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know,
what does
is
everybody think? Right.
does it
Exactly.
need to be regulated? Is this something that the EPA needs to regulate? Um, as part of your risk and resilience, or coming up, making you provide a plan for a contingency plan for when you're staffing, for staffing shortages. So, and on that, you know, on the other side of that, another question would be like, should there be staffing grants? You know, I mean, we pay for stuff to get fixed. We pay for grants for different things dealing with
Right.
risk and resilience. Should they offer a staffing grant, meaning they'll come in for a small system, maybe pick up half of the salary of an employee for a couple of years, until that person can get trained and into the workforce where they can and backfill
Yeah.
the open position.
Well, I would say if the EPA comes in and says you need to have a minimum amount of staff, and you know it's your fault if somebody quits or retires, you should have had a plan around that. Well, at the same time, it's like, well, how do we get new recruits? And then you can, or maybe even a signing bonus. Say, if you come here, you get this is a grant that we were offered. We were able to give you, $5,000 or something. I don't know, whatever the number is. And if you stay here a year, we'll give you another 5,000, or something, just to
Mhm.
keep people on. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some kind of incentive program to get people in. If there is going to be some kind of regulation around that, how, what is the funding plan? And that's not a bad idea. Even if the city got half of it paid for 3 years, maybe you
Yeah,
can
and
offer more money too. You know?
these are only suggestions, like I
Yeah.
said, things
No.
that I've
Right.
heard about. Another one is pooling operators. If you're a small town, do you try to pool your operators so that you're kind of sharing the operations? I guess that's a possibility. Again, I'm looking for feedback. I don't know. I'm kind of questioning all this myself. That's why I'm looking to the people that might be listening to help
I'm
with
gonna
some of these answers.
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
challenge myself with this word, but a conglomerate, right? Have like the same operators rotating in this in like a 3 city area or something, 3 town area,
yeah.
all working together. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I mean, but you still need more people. So I don't know about that. But
Yeah, and again, I'm just trying to think of ways for municipalities, because I know hovering in the back is private, the private side,
yep.
where they can handle multiple facilities with a smaller staff. Their certified personnel is covering more
I
area.
would I would like to hear some feedback on that too. If we can get some people to comment on whether or not, the private companies coming in to take over public sectors in the water industry or water systems, if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it
I
works for
know
some
people on
people.
both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, the whole plan of staffing, like I said, what's your system if you lose power? You got a backup generator, that's your plan. You have a generator. But what happens when we lose operators? We don't really have a plan. You just
You
try to
put an
hire
ad in the
more.
paper. You put an ad in the paper.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the questions that I had on this. Like I said, hopefully, with our future uh, guests, we'll get some answers talking more about internships that have been successful, talking about some different programs that are out there for training, some different programs that are offered. I know AWWA is probably going to be talking about some of the different programs that they have to try to get new faces into the industry too. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like to, ask, the recruitment process or getting people interested. I mean, that starts young, right? It starts in high school, maybe college. You have career fairs, or talk about the benefits of having an honest job for 30 years. And really, I mean, if you really want to think about it, I mean, that's your time frame. If you're coming out, you're 20 years old. I mean, you can essentially be retired, and then you're off to doing other things or whatever, and you have your pension, right? If you get into a good union, get into good incentive, or a good union program, right? I mean, that's how it works, right? I mean, you're 30 years in, you're still, I mean, 50 years old, and now you start a new chapter, or you can stay. I mean, there's always that. But I
yeah.
mean, does everybody, is there career fairs, or is there the benefits or the long term program of starting a career that is that visualized with potentials, I
And
don't know.
I sometimes wonder how successful. I mean, I did. But I didn't go to a career fair when I learned about the opening in the city. I had been summer help seasonal. I was a
Yeah, there you go.
seasonal, so I learned it through that way. That's how I got into the industry as a seasonal help. I wonder how much success, another question here, right? How much success career fairs are, how successful they are to the industry. Meaning, how many people go to a career fair, see a booth, and be like, you know what, I think I'd like to be a water operator. I don't know. I just would, that's a question that I'd
Yeah, I don't know.
be interested to know. Like,
But I like your plan too. Do you, and that's how you could recruit. Get summer help. Here's the job. And get kids in for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden they kind of like it, and
yeah.
they start in. Who knows?
I think sometimes too, it's a patience thing in today's society. It's a patience as far as like, um, you know, maybe you have to start out as the summer help, seasonal help, painting hydrants, mowing grass, that kind of stuff to move into something, or when something opens up, it gives you that leg, that upper hand that they know your face, they know you're a good worker, especially if you've been back as a seasonal help multiple years. Um, while maybe you're pursuing college or something,
Right. Right.
but but I think sometimes it's patience as far as a lot of people want to get in and already be the senior operator when they've not been the first operator, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems to me like um, that sometimes you have to work your way in, and the patience of working your way up the ladder is a little slower nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, instant gratification, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You order something on Amazon, and before you hit send, it's already at your door.
Right.
That's what in a drone.
So, so some good topics, that we talked about dealing with recruiting and trying to get more people in the industry. Hopefully, people who have listened haven't been too bored, and they can maybe type in a response or email us. Keeping the flow 3 at
You
Gmail.
know, somebody listening to this is like, you guys, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's what you should talk. Here's what you need to do. So that's the guys that we
I
need
would
typing
invite
some stuff
I
up.
would invite those too. I would invite people that are listening. If you got a topic that you think is important to you, and you're knowledgeable on a specific topic, shoot us an email. keepintheflow3@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. We'd love to have you even on the show.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
mean, this
tell
is
us.
just we.
We're interested in stories and people that want to talk about their experience. I mean, that's what we're here for, to spread that
Right.
message. And sooner than later, we're going to be below the Keeping the Flow podcast. So get your time in while you can, guys, for real.
Yeah, you can say you appeared on the show. Yeah, I mean we've had some interaction, some people that have left some comments. Um, what do you want to hear about? Uh, this was just a topic, like I said, that I saw as we're going down. We got some guests that are going to be covering some of the hot topics, some of the other hot topics, and so I was just kind of like, well, let's see what's out there. So
Well,
if you got a topic that you're interested in, certainly let us know.
yeah, and there's careers in the industry with owning your own business, in sales, and there's more than just water operators and things like that. I mean, the whole industry all encompasses that. So we'll have some people on that have their experiences told, or will tell their experiences about what they've done, starting up in this business as well, being an operator, and then moving through the whole system and using that knowledge to take it to the next level and do something else. A career in an industry is different than a career at a job. And I think that's what we talked about, right?
So, all right, it's been great. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone.
Yep,
Good luck.
thank you.